Whenever I hear the phrase master level, whether it's in martial arts, coding, or even just personal development, I immediately picture a toolbox.
A toolbox?
Yeah, a massive, heavy toolbox. I imagine that moving from a practitioner to a master means someone hands you the secret keys, the advanced gadgets, the complex maneuvers that no one else knows. You walk in expecting to learn more. More technique, more jargon, more ways to intervene.
That is the classic assumption. It's the video game logic of life. You level up, you get a bigger sword. But when we look at the reality of high-level development, specifically in the context we're discussing today, that expectation isn't just wrong, it's actually the first barrier that has to be smashed.
So, if I sign up for a master course and I'm waiting for the bigger sword, I'm already failing?
Failing is a strong word, but you're definitely looking in the wrong direction. The data and the experiences from this program suggest something completely counterintuitive. The shift to mastery isn't about addition, it's about subtraction.
Subtraction. That sounds, well, frankly, like a ripoff. If I'm paying for mastery, why am I getting less?
Because you don't need more tools. By the time someone reaches this stage, they usually know enough. They have the knowledge. The problem isn't a lack of technique, it's the interference caused by trying too hard to use those techniques. Think of it this way. A practitioner asks, "What tool do I use to fix this?" A master asks, "Where am I standing while I'm looking at this?"
It's an orientation shift, not a knowledge shift.
Precisely. It's about changing the position from which you operate. At the practitioner level, learning feels like acquiring assets. You're gathering gold coins. But at the master level, learning feels like cleaning a window. You aren't adding anything to the glass. You're scrubbing away the dirt, the ego, and the desperate need to do something so that you can actually see what's on the other side.
That sounds poetic, but let's be real, that has to be terrifying for high achievers. Most people who make it to a master level in any field are there because they are good at achieving visible, measurable progress. They like the gold coins.
Oh, absolutely. It's deeply unsettling, and that's a feature, not a bug. We see this all the time. Students enter these programs expecting to feel more powerful, more confident, more certain. They want to be the smartest person in the room.
And instead?
Instead, the training is designed to increase their uncertainty.
Wait, hold on. We're selling uncertainty now?
Not chaotic uncertainty, not the "I don't know what I'm doing" panic. It's a clarifying uncertainty. It's the realization that your old reference points, your checklists, your standard operating procedures don't apply to complex living situations. The training strips away the illusion that competence equals control.
That is a massive distinction. I think most of us conflate those two things entirely. If I'm competent, I'm in control. If I'm not in control, I must be incompetent.
Right, and the master level says, no, that is a lie. True mastery is the capacity to stay present when you have absolutely no control over the outcome. It's replacing the need to fix with the capacity to hold.
Holding space is such a buzzword these days, though. It gets thrown around in every HR meeting and yoga studio. What does it actually mean in this context? Because it sounds like just sitting there doing nothing.
And that is the hardest thing in the world to do. To truly do nothing requires immense active energy. It's not checking out or daydreaming. It's an active, vibrating alertness where you refuse to intervene just to make yourself feel useful.
So, the intervention is usually about soothing the practitioner's anxiety, not helping the client.
Bingo. Often when we rush to give advice or apply a technique, we aren't doing it for the other person. We're doing it because we are uncomfortable with the silence. We are uncomfortable with the not knowing. We want to resolve the tension so we can feel like good experts again.
That hits close to home. I think I do that in casual conversations, let alone high-stakes ones.
We all do. It's human nature. But in this specific curriculum, the role of the mentor, and interestingly, the AI support systems involved, is to catch that specific impulse. They don't support the student by giving them the answer. They support them by holding up a mirror to that discomfort.
I was going to ask about that. The source material mentions an AI persona that helps guide this transition. You'd think an AI would be the ultimate answer machine. You ask a query, it spits out a fact.
That's the irony, isn't it? In this context, the AI is programmed to resist that transactional dynamic. If a student asks a technical question that is actually just a mask for their own insecurity, the guide doesn't answer the technical question. It points out the insecurity.
That sounds incredibly frustrating.
It is. It's maddening. But that's where the development happens. If the guide just gave the answer, the student remains a practitioner. They got a fish. By refusing to answer, the guide forces the student to sit with the hunger. It forces them to notice, wow, I am really panicking because I don't have a script for this.
So the goal isn't ease.
No. The goal is clarity. Ease might come later, much later. But first, you have to see exactly how much you are trying to manipulate the moment. When you stop trying to wrestle reality into the shape you want, something relaxes.
But is it a passive relaxation? Like giving up?
Not at all. It's a precise relaxation. Think of a master swordsman or a professional athlete. They aren't tense. They aren't flexing every muscle. They are loose, but they are ready. The work becomes less about movement and more about alignment.
I like that word. Alignment. It implies you're working with gravity, not against it.
Exactly. And this leads to one of the biggest misunderstandings students have. They think depth equals intensity. They think if they are doing masterwork, it should feel heavy, dramatic, and loud.
I am performing a deep psychological intervention now.
Right, with the dramatic music swelling in the background. But in reality, depth is quiet. Mastery looks like restraint. It looks like the person who says one sentence in a 10-minute meeting, but that one sentence changes the entire trajectory of the room.
Because they were actually listening, not just waiting for their turn to speak.
And because they weren't trying to prove, they understood. That's the telltale sign of a novice, the desperate need to prove understanding. Look at me, I get it. Here's my analysis. A master doesn't care if you think they understand. They care about what is actually emerging in the room.
So, let's get practical for a second. If I'm a student in this kind of program, how do I know I'm actually getting it? How do I know I'm not just being lazy and calling it restraint?
That is the million-dollar question. The metric changes. You stop looking for external validation like a grade or a round of applause, and you start noticing your internal speedometer. When your questions slow down, that's a sign.
When the questions slow down?
Yes. When you stop frantically searching for the right thing to do and start becoming fascinated by what is happening right in front of you, your perception sharpens. You start noticing micro-expressions, shifts in tone, the energy in the room. You can't see those things if your brain is busy flipping through a mental textbook.
It's like driving. When you're learning, you're looking at the speedometer, the gear stick, the mirrors, panic checking everything. When you're a master driver, you're just driving. You're watching the road.
And you're feeling the car. That's the capacity we talked about earlier. It's the shift from intellectualizing the process to embodying it.
But there is a trap there too, right? Because once you reach that flow state, you might get arrogant. You might think, I've mastered this. I don't need to try anymore.
Which is why the master level is never a destination. It's a continuous practice of subtraction. The moment you think, I have arrived, you've actually just started adding ego back into the mix. You have to constantly subtract that new arrogance.
It sounds exhausting, in a way, but also liberating.
It is liberating because it takes the pressure off. You don't have to be the hero who saves the day. You just have to be the person who is present enough to let the truth surface.
I want to circle back to something you mentioned about the cost of this. We talked about the loss of the expert identity. Is there a grief process involved here?
Oh, significant grief. People build their entire careers on being the one with the answers. When you take that away, who are you? If I'm not the fixer, do I still have value?
That's a deep existential question to face in a professional course.
It is, but it's necessary. If you can't answer that, you can't lead at a high level. If your value is tied to your utility, you will always treat people as problems to be solved, so you can validate your own worth. To move beyond that, you have to find value in just being there.
Value in just being there. It sounds so simple, yet it goes against everything our economy teaches us. We are paid for output, for deliverables.
And that's why this is masterwork. It's countercultural. It requires you to prioritize the quality of your presence over the quantity of your output.
So, if we were to distill this down for someone listening who feels stuck, someone who feels like they keep learning more techniques but aren't seeing better results, what is the pivot point?
The pivot is to stop looking for the next edition, stop asking, what am I missing? And start asking, what am I holding on to that is getting in the way?
What am I holding on to?
Maybe it's the need to be right. Maybe it's the need to be liked. Maybe it's the need to be fast. Whatever it is, that need is noise. The work is to turn down the volume on that noise so you can hear the signal.
And that signal is reality?
Reality. The client, the situation, the market, whatever, is actually there, stripped of your projections about it.
It brings to mind that idea of responsibility. Usually, we think responsibility means I am responsible for the outcome. If this project fails, it's on me.
And here we reframe that. You are not responsible for the outcome. You are responsible for your presence. You are responsible for the quality of attention you bring to the moment. If you can stay with the difficulty without rushing to resolve it, you are doing the work.
That is a terrifyingly high bar, because it means I can't hide behind a checklist. If I fail, it's not because I used the wrong tool, it's because I wasn't fully there.
Exactly, it makes it personal, it requires vulnerability. But that is the only way to get to the truth. Everything else is just performance.
It seems we've come full circle. We started by looking for a bigger toolbox, and we ended up standing in an empty room realizing we are the tool.
And that the room was never empty. We were just too cluttered to see it.
A beautiful place to pause. It leaves us with a lot to subtract from our own lives today.
Less is more. Or rather, less is clearer.
And clarity comes first.
Clarity comes first.